Europe was never built for air conditioning. For generations, that was not a problem. In much of northern and western Europe, summer heat was something you opened a window for. Homes were designed to keep warmth in during winter, not throw heat out during summer. Old apartment buildings filled city centers. Historic facades were protected. Renters could not simply drill holes through walls. And unlike the United States or large parts of Asia, air conditioning never became standard household equipment. Even today, only about 1 in 5 European households has an air conditioner. Then the summers changed. In June 2026, Western Europe recorded its hottest June ever measured. The average temperature across the region reached more than 3 degrees Celsius above the modern climate average. Heat waves pushed cities into conditions many homes were never designed to handle. Bedrooms stayed hot through the night. Attic apartments turned into ovens. Schools struggled. Older people and people with health conditions faced the greatest danger. And suddenly, millions of Europeans had the same problem. They wanted air conditioning, but their buildings were not ready for it. A normal split air conditioner gives you powerful and efficient cooling, but installing one usually means drilling through a wall, mounting a compressor outside, running refrigerant pipes through the building, hiring a trained installer, getting permission from a landlord or building authority, and sometimes waiting weeks during the exact part of summer when everybody else wants the same technician. In parts of Europe, installation alone can cost more than €1,000. So people buy portable air conditioners instead. One box, one exhaust hose. Plug it in, push it toward the window. Problem solved. Except the solution has its own problem. Portable air conditioners are often loud. They dump waste heat through a hose. Their compressor is sitting inside the room with you. And depending on the design, they can cool far less effectively than a proper split system while using a surprising amount of electricity. So a Chinese appliance company looked at Europe and asked a very simple question. Why do people have to choose? Why not build an air conditioner with the performance of a proper split system, but make it install like a portable one? The result is called PortaSplit. And in the summer of 2026, Europeans started buying it so quickly that stores in some markets ran out. Midea says more than 300,000 units have been sold across Europe since the product launched there in 2024. Then the heat intensified. Since June 2026, the company says new orders for PortaSplit exceeded 160,000 units. Across Midea's air conditioning factories in Wuhu and Guangzhou, European orders for air conditioners reached about 200,000 units in a single month. One French customer placed an urgent order for tens of thousands of portable units. Midea converted another production line. Daily capacity doubled from around 3,000 units to around 6,000. A batch of 20,000 machines could be produced in roughly 3.5 days. And the first shipment began moving toward France within a week. This is not a futuristic prototype sitting behind glass. People are already fighting to buy it. And the reason has less to do with one spectacular new compressor than with something much more important. The machine was designed around a problem Europe already had. If you like stories where one small design change suddenly turns into a huge industrial opportunity, hit like and subscribe, because this air conditioner is a perfect example of how Chinese manufacturers are learning to compete not by inventing products nobody asked for, but by finding the part of an existing product that annoys everybody and removing it. Look at PortaSplit and it does not seem revolutionary. The indoor part looks like a large portable air conditioner on wheels. The outdoor part looks like a small white box. A thin gray refrigerant line connects the two. That line is the trick. In a conventional portable AC, almost everything happens inside one machine in the room. An air conditioner does not create cold. It moves heat. Inside the machine, refrigerant absorbs heat from indoor air. The refrigerant is compressed. That raises its temperature and pressure. Then the system has to dump that heat somewhere else. In a fixed split air conditioner, the noisy compressor and hot condenser are outside the building. That is why split systems can be quiet and efficient inside. The indoor unit takes heat from the room. The outdoor unit throws that heat into the outside air. The two halves are connected by refrigerant lines passing through the wall. A traditional portable AC has to perform both jobs while sitting inside. So it usually pulls heat from the room and then blows the hot condenser air outside through a large flexible duct. That sounds fine until you think about pressure. If the machine is constantly pushing indoor air outside, replacement air has to come from somewhere. Warm air can leak back into the room through cracks, doors, and gaps. The machine cools. Then the room quietly sucks heat back in. It is like trying to empty a bathtub while someone keeps adding water through a smaller tap. There are better portable designs, including dual-hose systems, but the basic problem remains. The hot side of the refrigeration system is still too close to the space you are trying to cool. Midea's solution was almost embarrassingly obvious. Move the hot side outside, but do it without permanently installing it. PortaSplit separates the indoor and outdoor sections like a real split system. The indoor unit stays inside on wheels. The outdoor unit hangs outside the window using a bracket. A 2-meter refrigerant connection runs between them. The hose is only about 2.7 centimeters thick, allowing the window to close much more tightly around it than it could around the giant exhaust duct on many portable units. No hole through the wall. No permanent outdoor compressor bolted to the facade. No installer connecting refrigerant lines on site. The refrigerant circuit is already sealed and connected from the factory. Place the indoor unit. Fit the bracket. Put the outdoor section outside. Run the thin connection through the window opening. Seal the gap. Turn it on. Midea says the full-size model can deliver 3.5 kilowatts of cooling, around 12,000 BTU per hour. It is rated A++ for cooling. It can also reverse the refrigeration cycle and work as a heat pump, delivering 3.5 kilowatts of heating with an A+ rating. In silent mode, the indoor noise level is listed at 39 decibels. And because the compressor and condenser are outside, the room is separated from some of the noise and heat that make ordinary portable machines unpleasant. Midea claims that under its comparison test conditions, PortaSplit can deliver several times the cooling performance and efficiency of conventional portable units. That claim needs context. It is a manufacturer comparison, not proof that every PortaSplit is automatically 4 or 6 times better than every portable air conditioner ever made. Different rooms, climates, machines, and test methods can produce different results. But the underlying engineering advantage is real. A split refrigeration system generally has a much easier job than a single-box portable machine trying to dump heat through a flexible exhaust hose. The strange part is where this product came from. PortaSplit is sold by Midea, one of China's largest appliance companies. But Midea says the product itself was developed and designed in Europe. Its research and development team in Stuttgart, Germany, looked at the problems Europeans had with portable air conditioners and tried to design around them. That matters because the success story is not simply China building cheaply and shipping globally. It is Chinese manufacturing connected to local product design. The engineers did not ask, what air conditioner works perfectly in Guangzhou? They asked, what air conditioner works in a rented apartment in Berlin where you cannot drill the wall? What works in an old building in Amsterdam? What works in a bedroom in France where the owner does not want a permanent compressor hanging outside? What works for someone who may only need serious cooling for a few weeks each year? That last question is especially important. In places where summer heat lasts for months every year, permanent air conditioning makes obvious economic sense. But many European consumers historically had a different calculation. Why pay for permanent installation if you only suffer through a handful of very hot days? Why modify the building? Why sacrifice the facade? Why deal with planning rules? Why pay an installer? For decades, that logic kept air conditioning ownership low. But climate change is stretching those handfuls of hot days into longer, more intense periods. The economics are shifting before the buildings are. That created a gap. Too hot to do nothing. Too temporary or complicated for permanent AC. Too uncomfortable for weak portable cooling. PortaSplit lands almost exactly in the middle. And the market response tells us how large that gap was. Reuters reported that the product sold out in some channels during the late May heatwave. Midea said second-hand units were being offered for more than new ones in some cases. In Germany, people were using stock tracking websites to hunt for units. One tracker covering nearly 1,200 retail locations reportedly showed only 4 available at one point in June. Think about that. This is an air conditioner, Not a limited edition sneaker. Not a concert ticket. Not a new iPhone. A large white appliance weighing more than 40 kilograms in total. And people were refreshing websites waiting for inventory. That is what happens when product-market fit collides with weather. If you are enjoying this, subscribe, because this is where the story gets much bigger than one weird air conditioner. The real advantage may not be the product itself. It may be what happens after demand suddenly explodes. Manufacturing is usually invisible to the buyer. You click order. A box arrives. But between those two events is an entire machine. Factories, suppliers, compressors, heat exchangers, motors, electronic controls, refrigerant tubing, plastic molding, packaging, warehouses, shipping containers, trucks, retail inventories, forecasting software, workers, production lines. Normally, factories plan seasonal demand months in advance. You do not want to discover in July that Europe suddenly needs another 200,000 air conditioners. By then, summer is already happening. A cooling product that arrives in October has missed the market. That is why Midea's July production response is as important as the product design. At its Woohoo factory, July would normally be part of the slower period for portable air conditioner production. One line was operating. Then, urgent European orders arrived. The plant converted another flexible production line. Daily output increased from roughly 3,000 to 6,000 units. Workers and suppliers reorganized around the new schedule. Within days, tens of thousands of machines were ready. For one urgent French order, the first batch was shipped only 7 days after confirmation. Even the logistics had to change. Traditional sea freight from China to Europe can take many weeks. Rail is faster, but still too slow for a customer desperate to put products on shelves while the heat wave is happening. For some urgent orders, Midea used cross-border trucking routes. This is one of China's most underrated industrial advantages. Not merely making something cheaply, changing what the factory makes quickly. A manufacturing system becomes more valuable when demand becomes unpredictable. Europe's heat waves are unpredictable. You can forecast summer. You cannot perfectly forecast which country will suddenly experience a week of record heat and empty every air conditioner shelf. A factory network that can switch production and push inventory toward that country in days has an advantage over one optimized only for a stable annual schedule. And Midea is not alone. Haier, Gree, Samsung, LG, Mitsubishi Electric, and other Asian manufacturers have all benefited from rising European cooling demand. Chinese air conditioner exports to Europe have been climbing sharply. During the 2026 heat waves, shipments into markets including France and Spain jumped. So this is not a story where one Chinese company invented air conditioning and Europe surrendered. The competition is real. Japanese and South Korean companies have decades of cooling expertise. European brands and installers remain important. Fixed heat pump systems are still the better solution for many buildings. But PortaSplit exposes a larger shift. Europe is becoming a cooling market faster than its housing stock can adapt. That creates room for products designed around the transition. The International Energy Agency says air conditioner ownership in Europe is only around 20%. Compare that with around 90% of households using air conditioning in the United States. That gap is enormous. It does not mean Europe will automatically become America. European buildings, electricity prices, regulations, and climate patterns are different. Many homes use shutters, insulation, and architectural cooling strategies. Cities are trying to expand trees, shading, and passive cooling. And there are good reasons not to solve every heat wave by simply adding millions of compressors to the grid. Air conditioning consumes electricity. If millions of households switch machines on during the same hot afternoon, electricity demand spikes exactly when the system is already under stress. That can create a vicious circle. Hotter summers create more AC demand. More AC demand increases electricity demand. If that electricity comes from fossil fuels, emissions increase. More warming creates more heat. The answer is not no cooling. Extreme heat kills people. Cooling can be essential infrastructure. The answer is efficient cooling, better buildings, better grids, cleaner electricity. and machines that deliver more cooling for every unit of power consumed. That is another reason split-style systems matter. Efficiency is not just a marketing number when a continent is adding cooling load. Multiply a small efficiency difference by millions of units and thousands of hours. Suddenly, the design of a refrigerant loop becomes an energy policy issue. PortaSplit is also a heat pump. That sounds like an extra feature until you look at European energy policy. A heat pump moves heat instead of creating it directly by burning fuel or running a resistive heating element. In winter, the refrigeration cycle reverses. The outdoor section absorbs heat from outside air. The indoor section releases that heat into the room. So one machine can potentially cool a hot apartment in July and heat the same room during milder winter conditions. That improves the economics for a buyer who does not want an expensive appliance sitting unused 9 months of the year. Again, this does not make PortaSplit a universal replacement for a whole home heating system. The full-size model is designed for individual rooms, with Midea listing suitability up to around 42 square meters under its assumptions. The outdoor operating range has limits. A whole building may need multiple units or a completely different system, but the dual use matters. The product stops being only an emergency summer purchase. It becomes a flexible room climate machine. There are other limitations too. The complete setup is not light. The indoor unit alone weighs more than 32 kilograms. The outdoor section is nearly 10 kilograms. You can roll the indoor unit, but nobody should imagine tossing the whole system into a cupboard with one hand. The two sections are permanently connected by the refrigerant hose. You cannot casually disconnect them without professional work. You need a suitable window or another secure mounting arrangement. The outdoor unit needs somewhere safe to sit or hang. Building rules still matter. A landlord may still object. Historic structures can have restrictions beyond drilling. And depending on the market, the machine itself can cost hundreds of euros or over 1,000. This is not a $20 fan. The genius is not that Midea eliminated every compromise. It rearranged them. Traditional split AC says, maximum performance, permanent installation. Ordinary portable AC says, maximum flexibility, weaker performance, and more indoor noise. PortaSplit says, accept a heavier two-piece machine and a connected hose, but avoid the permanent installation. That trade is apparently attractive to a lot of Europeans. And this is exactly the kind of product Chinese manufacturers are becoming dangerous with. Not necessarily because the underlying physics is new. Vapor compression refrigeration is old. Split air conditioners are old. Heat pumps are old. Portable air conditioners are old. Window brackets are old. The innovation is combining mature technologies around a customer constraint competitors tolerated for years. This happens more often than people realize. The product that changes a market is not always the one with a scientific breakthrough. Sometimes it is the one that removes the plumber, or removes the installer, or removes the hole in the wall, or removes the waiting list. Think about flat pack furniture. The innovation was not inventing wood. Think about smartphones. Many individual technologies already existed. The breakthrough was integration. Think about electric cars. Batteries and electric motors were more than a century old. What changed was cost, control electronics, manufacturing, and the product around them. PortaSplit belongs to that less glamorous category. Take a fixed split AC. Make it movable. Keep the outdoor unit. Keep the refrigerant loop. Make the connection thin enough for a window. Pre-charge the system. Design a bracket. Turn installation from a construction job into an appliance setup. Then place the product into a market where heat is rising faster than buildings can change. That timing is everything. If Midea had launched this in Europe 20 years ago, it might have looked like an answer to a question nobody was asking. In 2026, people are searching stock trackers. This is why climate change is becoming an industrial story. Extreme heat does not only change weather, it changes what people buy. It changes which homes are valuable. It changes electricity demand. It changes building codes. It changes logistics. It changes factories thousands of kilometers away. A heat wave in Germany can cause a production line in Wuhu to change schedule. A hot apartment in France can trigger a truck leaving China earlier than planned. A planning restriction on an old European facade can shape a product developed by a Chinese multinational's German engineering team. That is globalization in one air conditioner. And there is a strategic lesson here for Chinese companies. For years, the stereotype of Chinese manufacturing was simple. Take a Western product, make it cheaper, ship more of it. That model still exists, but the more interesting companies are moving beyond it. They are building local research centers, studying specific markets, designing products around regional constraints, then using China's manufacturing system to scale them rapidly. PortaSplit is a good example because the product was designed around European housing rather than merely adapted after the fact. If that model spreads, competition gets harder for incumbents. A European appliance company does not only compete with cheap Chinese factories, it competes with Chinese factories connected to European engineers, local knowledge on one side, industrial scale on the other. That is a much stronger combination. But the market is far from decided. European cooling demand will attract everybody. Samsung is growing. LG is running factories hard. Mitsubishi has deep expertise. Heat pump specialists are expanding. Local installers have relationships and service networks Chinese brands cannot instantly reproduce. Regulators may tighten efficiency and refrigerant rules. Trade policy could change. Consumers may decide permanent heat pumps are worth the cost as hot summers become normal. And Midea will have to prove that its products remain reliable after years of use, not merely attractive during one brutal heat wave. Selling out is not the same as owning a market. A shortage can make almost anything look successful for a few weeks. The more important number will be what happens after shelves refill. Do buyers keep choosing the product? Do competitors copy the architecture? Does the portable split category become normal? Do European buildings begin planning around flexible cooling? Does Midea turn a viral appliance into a permanent product class? Those questions are still open. But one thing is already clear. Europe's old assumption that air conditioning is optional is weakening. Western Europe just experienced its hottest June on record. The continent is warming faster than the global average. Air conditioning ownership remains low. Millions of homes are difficult or expensive to retrofit. And a product designed around exactly those weaknesses is suddenly moving by the hundreds of thousands. That is why this story matters more than a sold-out appliance. It shows what happens when climate, architecture, and manufacturing collide. Europe built homes for yesterday's summers. China built factories capable of reacting to today's heat. And Midea found a way to connect the two without asking everyone to drill a hole through the wall. If this video gave you something new to think about, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We go deep on the technologies that look ordinary, until you realize they are changing entire markets. And here's the question I want to leave you with. If European summers keep getting hotter, what becomes more valuable? The company that builds the most powerful air conditioner? The company that builds the cheapest one? Or the company that designs the machine around the home you already live in? Because Midea did not win attention in Europe by reinventing cold air. It removed the part Europeans hated most, the installation. And once that disappeared, demand did the rest.